Hello, and welcome to episode 141 of Prose. This week, cling to the magic of your mother tongue and meet some powerful women in white. Today's episode kicks off the month of October, a generally good one for prose, as the dark and the semi-spooky tend to be what we lean into here. These first couple stories are more foreboding than out-and-out scary or horrific, but I hope that you'll allow them to be a fun part of your quote-unquote spooky season nevertheless. While you listen, please head over to prosepodcast.com as our one-stop shop for all things prose. From there, you can follow the program on social media under @prosepodcast across all platforms, and you can also find the small but growing online store. If you are enjoying the show, please click that 5-star review button for Prose wherever you are listening. It really helps out a lot. For easiest access to the show, subscribe using whatever podcast app is your favorite, maybe the one you're using right now. Do go check out the Prose Patreon page at patreon.com/prosepodcast and consider supporting the show there. Both heaps of gratitude and a little swag does come with that deal. Again, all of this is on prosepodcast.com. One new offering that is not on the website yet is the Amazon link to both the ebook and the physical copies of Sunball. Please zip over there and grab yourself a copy of each. Anyway, this is all in show notes as well, so give that a peek, and you know what? Thanks for listening. Let's get to those tales, shall we? This week we have The Cant of Hibernia and Les Dames Blanches. Enjoy. The Cant of Hibernia, an original short story by Jared I. McGee.
Come here, Sublik. It is time. It is a time for tales. But grandmother, tales are just lessons. You try to trick me into liking.
Now, Olomi. You must know the ways of their world and the ways of our world. Without the tales, their world will swallow ours, and you will be left a wraith, stuck between realities, never knowing where to lay your head.
I know, grandmother, you tell me every day. If I come and sit still for the tales today, may I go and play with Margaret and Patrick before the sun sets?
My child, that is a deal. Now sit down with your grandmother and listen to the tales I have to relate today. You know, full well, Olomi, that we speak in the voice that moves. Through the magic and music of our tongue, we make a man's spirit weep, love, hate erupt in laughter. We can make a woman marry, divorce, conceive, kill, steal, sleep, die. We first learn the voice from the she and early ones, out in the bogs and the moors, nestled in hillsides and nesting in the boughs. As we tore down these wild places, we first learned even more of the voice, as those beings had to come out of hiding in the wake of that destruction. But the she and early ones began to die out, and now they are all but myths in this modern world of ours. This world of smoke and steel and fire. We carry the voice that moves into that world, though, and we are stronger for it. We do what we have always done. We travel the paths of this world, seeking knowledge and power and peace. Primrose or perdition,
The paths must be walked. That is one of many things we learned from the fair folk back in the times before light, when the first of the foreign invaders came to change our land and our language. But I know all this, grandmother. I know of all the invaders that have come after. I know the tales of how our people have suffered and do suffer. Why must I hear them again? Child, if for no other reason than you speak to me in the language of those conquerors, when we two are alone. When we are together, we must use the voice. We must always use the voice amongst ourselves, and here you are, speaking theirs. When we speak it in front of buffers, our language, you must guard its secrets and its meanings, while also allowing the power that flows through the tongue to work its magic on those buffer ears. When trouble comes calling, the voice is our answer, even if only in part. Do you remember why your late pa and ma named you Olomi, dear? I remember you telling me, grandmother, but I cannot recall in this moment. Child, it is because the night comes before the day. Olomi comes before Talosk. We may be in the darkness now, but the nighttime is our friend. It shields us from buffer eyes. It allows us to work our magics even in this time of electronic vision and hearing that tries to bring our old ways to ruin. If the night becomes too much, we can always light a new cell and go about our business, shrugging away the poisoned gifts of the false light of the buffers. You see, dear one, your pa and ma wanted you to know that there is power in the world after the sun goes to lee for the night. Rather than fear Olomi, you should embrace it. Rather than doubt yourself, you should believe in your power and the power of the voice that moves. Do you understand? I believe so, grandmother. I am to love the night and love myself. You are to love Olomi, and you are to love yourself. I am to love Olomi, and I am to love myself. There you are, youngling. Doesn't it feel better to speak in the tongue of your people, even if only for word replacement, for specificity? I hope that you will remember the tale of your naming along with all the others. The tale of the birth of the voice. The tale of the taking of the winter lands from us by wave after wave of buffer invaders and conquerors. The tale of the great famine and the wanting. All the tales that make us who we are and let us sing the cants that etch the very power of the fire of the stars and bones of the earth in our bones. The more we sing the cants, the more we speak the voice, the more we can see ourselves, be ourselves, and stave off obliteration and distractions one more day, one more year. Must we only sing the cants among ourselves? I often forget what you've told, grandmother. Most of our songs are for our ears, much like the voice. However, there is power in the cants for the buffer ears as well. We can befuddle their minds. We can influence their thoughts. We can teach them the truths of this world. Some say of the cants, not only can they be sung in the wider world, but must be. Without them, we would have burned the earth to the ground 10 times over, centuries ago. Even with the cants, in your very own lifetime, you have seen what the fair folk warned us would be on the horizon. The oceans aflame. The falling apart of the kingdom of the beasts.
The loathing of brother on brother and the turning of the dagger in hand to our very own throat. With so few of the magics that guarded this world left after the decimation of the planet, my child, we are the ones that must stand up and sing our continued existence into being.
But grandmother, that is horrifying. If we stop singing or speaking, the world will simply catch a flame and fall apart.
It's not that simple. But I fear that is the case at hand, Alomi. You have heard this before. Why the despair and fear now?
I just love playing with my friends. I love walking the roads and traveling the paths with our people, our family. It seems such a shame that people that have come before have doomed us to die before we ever get our chance to live and to carve our own paths down the great way.
Ah, and here is why your old grandmother here has hope even in the face of the death of our reality. Not only do we have the voice that moves, the Cants, and the other powerful magics left in the world, what few there may be, we also have your spirit, Alomi, that more than anything else will safeguard the earth and our people for at least a time. You must cling to that spirit and foster it in all you meet.
Even in the buffers?
Especially the buffers. They do not know that we are the dike holding back the angry sea.
Yet we are not allowed to teach them or even let them know about our ways.
Yes, child, that is correct. If we did, we would surely see them weaponize it and use it for great ill, as they have all the other magics of all the other peoples they have conquered. Instead, we must play our part. Walking the paths, traveled and untraveled, singing the cants, and whispering the voice around the buffers while shouting it to the silver goddess above and one another when we are out under the firmament. Disguise the cants, disguise the voice, but use them to shift the balance of power for all of our sakes.
I think I understand, grandmother, but it is a lot. I often forget all the rules.
And that is why we must repeat these tales, and so very many more, often. Now, the sun begins its path to Lee. His sister will be up and smiling at us in no time, and we will need to gather with the people to sing some of the cants. Go, and to find Margaret and Patrick, and lighten your heart for a time. Speak no more of this until it is time for our songs and magic. Your boundless spirit and love for your friends is again a far greater magic than anything your old grandmother can teach you.
I will go and play, grandmother, but I won't forget. No, I won't forget.
I pray you won't, child. Run and play alone me. Soon, we will be singing to save the world. Thank you for listening to The Cant of Hibernia, an original short story by me, Jared I. McGee. Please stick around for our next short story, Les Dames Blanches. Les Dames Blanches, an original short story by Jared I. McGee.
The humans have feared my sisters and me for millennia. Yet, what have we done to earn their ire and their fear? All across France, my sisters and I have tried to provide surer footing for those that might stumble over the cliff to fall to their death in a ravine. I have tried to push those on the edge of careening into the depths at the edge of a bridge. I have dissuaded those trying to ford rivers that were too broad, too strong. I have encouraged these men to dance with me, to waltz or tango or lithely slide together in any number of ways and away from their likely doom. The idea that I would save these untold numbers of men and then doom them to a grisly evening of briars in the eyes, or thorns in their flesh, or rocks to their temples, well, I can't imagine why it's come to be. My sisters at Aprigny, Paris, Bayeux, and Ebon continue to work toward saving the stumbling men of La République. I left France long ago, though. I thought of joining my sister in Avenel. She, who the great Scotsman of his age is thought to have made up from whole cloth. Little do those modern doubters know she was there long before him and his quaint fiction. And she continues there long after he has turned to dust and mold. I thought of joining my sisters in Allemagne. She who can be heard coming from afar, even on the darkest night, her expansive ring of keys to doors across the great land clinking as she makes her way toward wayward souls. Or maybe she who the Bohemes celebrated as Bertha, embracing her for a time before the Christians drove out any good feelings toward the Fae. My German sisters were revered before that time. They even broke bread with the princes and kings, leading them from ruts that might have turned their horse's foot, which would have thereby caused a fall that would have turned their rider's neck. Legend and myth have greater difficulty remembering these acts of kindness. I thought of joining my sisters in air, they who cry and wail to inform those close to the Reaper that they should change course and avoid their demise. Patrick and his ilk caused us to go from saviors to sinful demons, though. Patterns such as this emerged throughout the world. Our protective nature was nothing new, though. For untold ages we protected the homes of the world under a multitude of names. Some lost, some remembered. In those older days, we would live in pods of 3. When we would seek to protect a living space, each sister would take one corner, each with her back to it, and we would keep an eye over the threshold. I say threshold and not door, because our looking over those venerative and pious souls in need predates doors by more ages than the human mind can fathom. While we looked over the domiciles, we would have our friends of the forest be our eyes and ears outside. My favorite faunal acolyte was a round marmot, who I named Sanson. But as we outlived our sylvan friends, we had to make many. Snakes, owls, foxes, wolves, friends of the natural world who, despite humans' seeming desire to burn the entire world around them, still wanted to look out for their upright, apish cousins. The animals of this weary world are far more noble than any god or human could ever hope to be. For thanks for our services, families would bless our senses with the burning of incense, feed us with fruits of the field and fruits of the flesh, and beautify the spaces we would defend with cuttings of the forests to make us feel more welcomed and at home. We would often share the fruit or the seeds or the flesh with our animal partners, and we were all the better for it. The families were safe, the homes were safe, the animals were fed and felt useful. We were ecstatic to be the breaker upon which any evil must be smashed if it were to try to crash into a home. Those days seem long gone, even to we immortal ones. The stink of the Christian rebranding of who we are and what we are about clings to us. Our more distant cousins, many of whom were either defenders of man or simply ambivalent and lonely beings who meant them no harm, have gone through awful rebrandings themselves, far worse than anything my sisters or I have experienced. The poor grandchildren of Gaia and Tartarus, well, those poor cousins of ours suffered most, both in punishment and in sullying of who and what they were. Snakes became seen as evil. Women became seen as evil. They didn't stand a chance. We at least held the form of the human women men so desired. But in our power combined with our femininity, the modernizing world saw us as impure and dangerous. To give women power was to undermine the very masculine, very domineering one true God. The men of the world simply could not have that. So, like our cousins, we became the stuff of nightmares. We morphed from protectors who would fiercely put a dark one down in defense of a child, any child, to wailing women that, on our good days, tricked unassuming men into roadside mishaps, or, on our bad days, murdered them outright in cold blood, often for no other reason than they would not dance with us or call us pretty. The profound absurdity of it is galling. Interestingly, though, we have begun to see the offerings come back into some homes. Some women are welcoming us into their places of respite, allowing us to take back our three corners. We have begun to find fruits for our eating, celebration for our vigilant animal kin, a rethinking of who and what we are. Some are even calling us by our old names. Moirai, Hore, Morrigan's, Sharit, Parsee. Though many have gone with the Christianized Marys. We accept that nomenclature, though. Humans do tend to think we are somehow omnipresent. Sisters were there to witness the crucifixion and the resurrection, but they are the ladies of Judea and Palestine. They protect homes in that expanse, not worldwide, not everywhere, not always. No matter what we are being called, we are being celebrated once more.
And that is miraculous after having so many of our cousins and sisters forgotten, hunted, killed, driven into hiding. Be they witches or pagans or any other label that will become in vogue for a moment with these mortals. We sisters in white cannot help but laud them and their willingness to cast off centuries of oppression and remember a world where the divine and the feminine will savagely work in their favor, but for a pittance of an offering and a small dash of gratitude. No strings, no curses, no need for worship. The humans have feared my sisters and me for millennia, yet we are beginning to find a way back from the shackles and prisons their baseless ire and fear created. Put out an orange, my favorite exotic delicacy. Don't shoo away that muskrat or sparrow. Light a stick of incense wherever you consider your hearth to be in your odd, modern home. We Dame Blanche will see your invitation, and we will keep you and your family safe from all the ills of the world with our maidenly, maternal, strong, warm embrace. Thank you for listening to Les Dames Blanches, an original short story by me, Jared I. McGee. That does it this week for Prose. Please note that all sounds you have heard come from freesound.org or YouTube's free audio library. Everything is being used under CC 01.0 public domain dedication licenses. I certainly hope you enjoyed this first episode of our October series, and I do hope you'll join us in 2 weeks' time for yet another installment of Prose. Until then, please love those around you, tell them that you do, and embrace this life, spooky or not, as it is always stranger than fiction. Thank you so much for listening.